Superboy, The Adventures of Superman when he was a boy. I love that tagline so much. They need to bring it back on more things. Clark Kent's adventures as Superboy could get pretty out there, even in the issues that are now considered iconic, such as Adventure Comics 247, which features the first appearance of the Legion of Superheroes. It's so early that Lightning Lad is still called Lightning Boy. Maybe he changed his name after he met Clark, because by the next appearance of the Legion in Adventure Comics 267, he's going by Lightning Lad. In the interim, they most likely figured out that alliteration sounded better. The Silver Age loved a good alliteration. But given Superman's thing for double L names, it's amusing. Now, in their first outing, the Legion is described as a superhero club. They're from the future, and the whole issue is basically the three shown members bullying Superboy aggressively, even though they're the ones who asked him to join. I'm sorry, Superboy, but we cannot admit you into our superhero club. Your low score on the tests we gave you proves your powers are too ordinary. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and it's Silver Age time. The first appearance of the Legion is appropriately enough entitled The Legion of Superheroes. It's written by Otto Binder with art by Al Plastino, and comes from the year 1958, so an earlier Silver Age outing. The big highlight of the issue, aside from the bullying and the fact that there are superheroes coming from the future, is that each of these heroes has one power, and Superboy has many. So how could the Legion be mightier than he? So the members of the Legion, the ones that we're going to see in this issue, who are Saturn Girl, Cosmic Boy, and Lightning Boy, they start off this issue by messing with Clark and making him fear that his secret identity has been compromised. In Smallville one day, Clark Kent receives a sudden shock. Hello there, Superboy. You think I'm Superboy? That's a good one. But at home, Clark does doff his outer garments to reveal himself as the famed boy hero. That boy is new in town. Gosh, did he somehow find out my secret identity? Oh, he must have been joking. I'll forget it and go on patrol. I have my man voice, even though these are my adventures as a boy. On patrol, Superboy can hardly believe his ears when, "Hi, Clark Kent." Later, Superboy is really overwhelmed. Superboy, give my regards to Mr. and Mrs. Kent, your foster parents, when you return home. This is Clark's worst nightmare. They probably know this too, because they're from the future. Superboy is relieved when he learns that they're not from that time and he can go on living his life. Now they invite him not just to the future, but to become a member of their special club, because he's still very famous in the future and they'd love to have him. Superboy is flattered and always up for a time travel trip, so they go to the 30th century. And there he's shown the sights. As they tour the wonders of 30th century Smallville, gosh, you have space sightseeing trips. Earth satellite tour around the world in 80 minutes, the Jules Verne. I love the Jules Verne. That marketing would still work. There's also this ice cream parlor they go to that has 9 flavors from 9 planets. I just really want to know what flavor Martian ice cream is. Superboy also sees that his house is preserved as a historic site, and he has an emotional reaction to it, understandably. He's less reactive to seeing that he's being taught about in schools and that they're using Superboy robots. Is this where his love of robots and getting them to do things for him came from? Probably not, but it's fun to imagine that it's some kind of paradox. Suddenly, the robot went dead. I can't show how Superboy used the heat of his X-ray vision to melt steel. Wait, teacher. Here's Superboy in person. We brought him into our time from the 20th century. It seems like there should be some kind of rules around that kind of thing. But it's fine, the teacher takes it in stride. Now we can have the real person demonstrate. But that is enough wholesome, time-traveling, potentially paradoxical fun. It's time for Superboy to join the Legion. But first, there are some membership requirements. And also before that, there's something else that's noteworthy here, and that's that in the updated digital coloring, aside from the fact that it doesn't do Cosmic Boy's helmet justice on the cover, there are a couple of panels in here when you can see other Legion members in the background where they tweak them, and they make one look like Brainiac 5 in the recolor. It's a little change, and it's understandable why they did do it, because Brainiac 5 does become a prominent member of the Legion. However, that alters the historical accuracy of this issue because he wasn't a member at that point or even a character at that time. And then if someone were to go back and read this and that to be the only one they see, they would assume that Brainiac was there even in the background, even if he doesn't say anything, whereas that's not the case. You kind of lose a bit of how things evolved over time with that change. But what do you think? Do you like the updated edition of Brainiac 5? Does it make it feel more filled out to you? What has not changed is the trials that Superboy must undergo. He's gonna have to face off against each of the 3 named Legion members that we've seen in some kind of task. First up, it's Saturn Girl, and she has the power of thought casting, which is basically telepathy, but there's an extra emphasis on the fact that she can kind of give mental nudges, commands. She says that that's what Saturn specializes in, telepathy, so watch out, don't go to Saturn. Their task is to get a statue of the unknown spaceman up from the bottom of the ocean for a museum, because it sank. and I really want to know more about the unknown spaceman. Let's go back and make a story about the unknown spaceman. Who was that? Now, Superboy plans to do this with super speed and then probably a combination of super strength. But before he can, he sees off in the distance that robot, the robot that we saw earlier, it's run amok. Well, it's not really run amok. It's just kind of running away. It's not hurting anybody or anything, but Superboy decides that that's the priority and he goes over there to deal with that. He ends up just taking it and smashing it back into a classroom, and thankfully they're able to turn it off. And as he leaves, he thinks, well, how could she do anything? Because she just has telepathy. What's that gonna do? Well, little did he know that she's essentially Aquaman, because she's able to send a thought command to the creatures of the deep and make them bring up the statue. And she's not a good winner at all. And when Superboy arrives, too late, Superboy. I got the statue. You can be a gentleman if you want and carry it for me.
Jeepers, no wonder these kids are called superheroes. They do super feats even though they each possess only one superpower.
He's gonna have to curb that attitude before he meets Batman. Wow, all the feats you do, Bruce, and with no superpowers. After the statue is delivered to the museum, Superboy meets humiliation at the clubhouse. You lost out on your first task and to a girl. Is this the great Superboy we learned about in school? What's your excuse?
None. If I tell about the runaway robot delaying me, it would sound like a weak alibi.
Sexism is alive and well in the 30th century. Also, this really makes it seem like Cosmic Boy has some issues with Superboy. Can we explore this? Can we mine this? But for our next task, which is against Cosmic Boy, we're upping the stakes. The Jules Verne has crashed, so I guess it's not that safe. Maybe we want to take longer than 80 minutes to go around. The people got off okay, but the forest is on fire. It's Superboy's arsenal against magnetism. But before Superboy can even get there to try, he's once more distracted, this time by a falling satellite. It's the US Vanguard, which is a real satellite and was launched in March of 1958. And at the time, it was thought that it was going to last for millennia. So seeing it in a story like this set in the future, it makes sense and it's a nice nod. Later, those calculations were adjusted. Also, communication was lost with it quite a while ago. It's still around there though. Okay, but seriously, magnets, how do they work? How are they going to stop this fire? Cosmic Boy doesn't need any help, Superboy. Special serums gave me magnetic eyes of superpower. I'll pull a flock of iron meteors down from space to fill the lake near the fire. Arriving, Superboy is again thwarted. The lake overflowed and flooded the forest, putting out the fire.
Where were you, Superboy?
Yes, good. Causing a second ecological disaster to stop the first.
Superboy's face here, he's really annoyed.
It says a lot about Superboy's feelings of pride that he can't just say what happened. But it also says a lot about his view of the Legion, that he feels that him saying what he was actually doing would be viewed as an excuse. Oh, just stop the satellite from potentially destroying a city or something. I know that's not as good as, destroying a forest. Next up, Lightning Boy's task, and it follows the same formula. This time they have to go let a ship know that it's not gonna have enough fuel to make its trip, and of course Superboy is way late, he doesn't get to do it, and so then Lightning Boy gets to do some electric skywriting in space to tell the ship to turn around. And this means that Superboy is a loser, and we'll all know because Saturn Girl wrote it on their whiteboard. And they don't just reject him, they obliterate him, and by that I mean Cosmic Boy. Cosmic Boy is the ringleader in all of this. Later at the clubhouse, Superboy's worst moment comes. 3 times you failed in the contest, Superboy. Sorry, but we reject you from the Legion of Superheroes.
But I still won't try to alibi my way out of this. I'll take it with a smile.
Superboy holds his smile despite the jibes that follow him to the door. Only the backward 20th century people could call him a superhero. Bet they exaggerated his super deeds, right, Superboy?
It could be. Well, so long. No hard feelings on my part.
But Superboy's brave smile covers a broken heart.
How will I ever tell them back in Smallville that their superhero flunked out of the superhero club?
Wait, Superboy, come back! But before he does, he really doesn't need to tell anybody. What happens in the 30th century stays in the 30th century because it hasn't happened yet. The thing is, listen, don't worry. It was just a prank, bro. Or rather, it was just an elaborate hazing ritual, bro.
But I don't understand. I've been rejected.
No, you're a member, Superboy. We gave you a bad time only as your initiation. We deliberately decoyed you elsewhere during each contest. For instance, when I first raced away on our job... Wait, do they do this to everybody or just Superboy? Clark should have rejected them and left and formed his own club. Perhaps a league of some kind. The levels they went to stop him from winning the contest are a bit much. Saturn Girls is pretty tame in that she just sends a mental command to the robot to run away. Cosmic Boy is the most intense one because he's the one who redirected the satellite to come crashing towards the Earth. They do take the time to say, oh, it wasn't actually going to hit anybody, it was going to fall into the ocean, but after seeing how he dealt with that fire, I'm not so sure. Lightning Boy making the invisible eagle escape the zoo also wasn't too bad, but all of these things inconvenienced people and caused real problems for the people that had to deal with them. Not just Superboy, but all of this was to show that he's a super good good sport. Taking it with a smile. I guess they're ignoring the tears. Also, now they know that he'll lie instead of saying what he's really doing. I guess that's also good to know. But there's no time to think about the meanings or ramifications of any of that because he's gonna get them back, sort of, but not really. There's a disaster where a pole starts falling over and he's the only one who can go stop it, and he manages to find items or kind of sort of use a facsimile of their powers to save it. And then at the end where he supposedly manages to get one over on Saturn Girl is a real reach.
I'll bet you're wondering why I simply didn't shove the tower straight with my super strength.
Gosh, you read my mind. Now I get it. You had your little joke with us too.
Guessing the question that anybody would have does not count as mind reading. What a wonderful start to everyone's relationship.
Look at his thundercloud eyebrows. The Legion better watch out.
Superboy's vengeance may only have just begun.
They do give him an award for being able to use their own powers, all of them, and showcase them. Maybe just because, they've probably read those history books. They've seen what happens when Superman goes bad. But it's all over, and Clark has a little medal and friends from the future. Hooray! I hope he tells Ma and Pa Kent to fix the house up how they want it to look for a museum piece. Hide all the embarrassing knickknacks. And that's the first outing of the Legion, which will grow to have more members, become a bigger deal, become more complex. The powers are going to get more fleshed out. Some people's names are going to change. But this is how it started. And as for this story, it is fairly formulaic once they get to the initiation especially. But there are fun elements and ideas at the core concept of the Legion. Having all these different heroes from the future where you can really just envision it to be what you want. So there's a lot of room to play. So you can have a lot of fun with it. And then you get to have Superboy come in as this outsider character. So you can then put that character into a bit of a different situation too. It's always fun to look back on these first appearances and see how things started and where they went. What stuck around, what changed, how quickly did it change? What do you think of this tale? Are you a fan of the Legion of Superheroes? If so, which era? Would you join after this initiation? Share your thoughts down below, and while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.